Alright, folks. Welcome back. It is day 155. It is post 150 review. Tried my best yesterday. It was a long one. Pretty gratifying to think about specific types of ways of approaching recalling the vocabulary that we've learned, and an opportunity to kind of summarize my thoughts about how one go about modifying and adjusting, I guess, a study plan of some sorts. Once again, Maku desu. Konnichiwa. Yokoso. Um, we basically did a review yesterday, so we're gonna hop right into Unit 33. Hopefully, this is gonna be a slightly shorter one today. A little bit carryover fatigue. But let's look at the guidebook. Section 3, Unit 33. Describe a recent date. So we got quite a lot of things when it comes to dates. Negative things and positive things. So I'm looking forward to seeing how much of all the legacy vocabulary and stuff they're gonna place in there. Still haven't reached the final feature in Duolingo's course, which are stories. So still got a while. We got like 40 more units to go. Slow and steady. Alright, Unit 33's guidebook. I met my new boyfriend at a bar in Spain. Oh, interesting. Oh no. Is bar what I think it is? Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, wait. We know what bar is. It's fine. Yeah, still got 40 more units before the story feature. There, hello there. Okay, so Spain. スペインのバーで新しい彼氏に会いました。Okay. Alright. I don't quite see anything new about this. So that's okay, I suppose. Yeah, nothing new there. My new girlfriend can drive. Nothing here too. 新しい彼女は運転. Yeah, 運転. Oh, no, there is something new here. 運転ができます. Oh, interesting. So instead of going for yeah, instead of going for 運転する, or interesting. 運転ができます. That's kind of like knowing driving. Interesting. I'm gonna look this up in a sec. So yeah, being able to, being good at, do well, come into existence. Interesting. Dekiru. To finish, to grow. Wow, there's a lot. Okay. Interesting. Alright. Yeah, that makes sense. Can drive. Yeah, can drive. I didn't read the sentiment clearly. Yeah, that does say can drive. Uh-huh. 運転ができる. Samsung. Oh, okay, that's the grammar point. To be able to do something, to can do something using できる. Okay. Samsung は料理ができる. できます. Okay. Sure. Oh yeah, no worries. Luck on your Korean lessons. 頑張って. My new boyfriend is good at swimming. So is it Suica that they went with? I mean, not. Oh yeah, they No. what did they go here? Atadashi Areshi wa I mean suie, not suika. Freaking watermelon. Suie. Yeah, they did one. Suie ga Oh good. Okay. Okay, that's a yoku ima yokui
新しい彼氏は水泳が得意です。
得意です sorry 得意です Tokui is a grammar point. That's a conjugation for good. Tokui. Neat. So suie comes back. Wasn't expecting that. Okay. So yokui. E and yo. Yokui desu. I'm very happy every day. 毎日とても幸せThat is not the happy from Shashinko, but I kind of like the way it sounds, so 幸せ
毎日とても幸せです。
Yes, 幸せです Alright, a different happy. Another happy, which I guess maybe will glean some nuances from 幸せ Alright, recent date. At least this sounds positive as opposed to negative. Our last date related thing was we got a bunch of negative words like mondai and kenka suru and wakareru to break up.
楽しい
Tanoshi. Oh, hey, we finally got Tanoshi. I don't need to extract this kanji from Shashinko anymore. We got Tanoshi. There's some Shashinko transference now. Alright. Oh, iremasu. Whoops. Wrong one. That's the day. Iremasu. Niku. Oh, hey. Namae. And we don't need to transfer this from Shashinko as well.
名前
Namae. Tanoshi. Futari.
二人
Okay. Namae. Okay. Shiawase. Shiawase.
幸せ
Shiawase. We'll just stick with 幸せ.
幸せですか
Shiawase desu ka? Oh. I can get behind this. Shiawase desu ka? It's kind of aggressive. A little bit aggressive. Like, it's very direct in terms of like asking someone how they feel. It's kind of direct. Okay. Shiawase desu ka? Spain. Alright. So they're kind of doing the thing where there are words, there are very specific specialized words that, or names or something that haven't been mentioned in some time ago, and they like kind of do this thing again. And I noticed that it more so lately. So I kind of like that. I think I dig it. Especially like Spain, like that, yeah. You know, Spain.
エリカさんはスペイン出身です
Erika-san wa Spain出身です。My voice is still a little bit weak, on the weaker side today. Erika-san wa Spain sushin desu.
名前はサムです。
名前はSamu desu. Right? We know 名前 from Shoshinko. Yeah, don't even have to look at it. And the nice thing about namae, it's Ming, and the read is mae. So you know its name because of Chinese. I knew it was named because of Chinese when I was learning Chinese, and then I was playing Shoshinko. Kind of fun. This is on the card with kanban, the signs, the signboard, kanban, namae. Okay. Namae wa namae wa what are our choices? Nani desu. What do we have? Which one are we who's introducing who? Arexu. Of course you would choose Arexu. Of all the
アレックス
Arexu desu. とても優しい人です. Oh, okay. All right. We know whose perspective it's coming from. Oh, no. No, they went with... Okay, all right. They went with the guy. Clever. I see what they did. Arexu is I guess one would define it as more of a neuter name, like a neutral name. So it could be like Alexander. So they went with this is from the perspective of the guy. Nice. Well played.
新しい彼氏はどんな人ですか？
新しい彼氏はどんな人ですか？かっこいい人です。名前はダニエルさん。ダニエルです。Oh, that's interesting. I was gonna say, I immediately almost said, 名前はダニエルさんです。But, there's no honorific there.
毎日メールします。
毎日メールします。Okay, so メールします is not necessarily new, but I think it has an alternative
メー
meaning.
ルします。
Yeah, okay, so text as well. Interesting. So this is highlighted for texting as opposed to emailing. メールします makes sense. Multi-purpose. I can see that. 毎日メールします That's kind of cute. Sort of. Every day. We text every day. Oh no. I might digress into interpersonal skills. I might end up doing that today. Let's try not to. I'm really...
よくメールします。
My voice is not up to that. よくメールします。
メールします。ダニエルさんは楽しい人です。
ダニエルさんは楽しい人です。Okay. I
新しい彼女は楽しい人です。
was my immediate thought is at least they're not using omoshiroi as funny. Okay. Alright.
新しい彼女は楽しい人です。新しい彼女は楽しい人です。新しい彼女は楽しい人です。
Oh, that kind of sounds like really nice. 新しい彼女は楽しい人です。It's just it sounded so like staccato like.
新しい彼女は楽しい人です。
アレックスさんはとても楽しい人です。
Alex-san wa totemo tanoshii hito desu. Okay. We're getting a lot of mileage out of Tanoshi here. What else are we getting? No, just Tanoshi. Okay. And having to say Alexu. Okay. And oh yeah, Namae. Let's not forget that. There's Namae. Hey bro, what's your user on Duolingo? It's the same. Same as Twitch and YouTube.
Namae.
Okay. I'm very happy every day. Oh yeah. Shiawase. Okay.
毎日。
毎日幸せ。No, とても幸せです。
です。
毎日とても幸せです。Okay.
メールします。
Oh.
毎
朝メールします。Now these are the sharp, like simple responses that I expect when you're asking a question. Like, yep, that's what we do very often.
持っています。
持っています。Ah, okay. Now they bring in the other one. Now we have both mottes. But now they introduce a kanji for motte. Yeah, so it's not motte, but it's motte iku this time. And we had a use of motte kuru. They're both like special classes. As opposed to a motte, the expression motte. So now they first introduced, oh wait. Yeah, they're doing motte iku. It's a Iku Yuku special class. Man. Alright. Someone already spoiled this for me, so... about the special class, Motte. So, Motte Iku. Motte imasu. Kind of like, now they're avoiding explaining, applying the other things for sundeimasu and hondeimasu. We got a bunch of them actually now, like 4 or 5 of them. Motte iku. Okay. Otoshi. Otoshi. I gotta make sure I don't accidentally say Chinese when I see numbers, because we've been kind of working on it. The Chinese numbers are a little bit more of a pep because of the tones. Like shi'ar, shi, yeah, shi'ar, juni. 楽しい。持っています。名前。I was about to say 名字。
持っています。
持っています。
バイクの免許。
バイクの免許。License? Okay. What a way to bring back バイクの免許。 Menkyo. Interesting.
免許
Menkyo.
彼氏の趣味はスキーです。
Kareshi no shumi. Oh, hey, there's shumi. Kareshi no shumi wa... Honestly, I don't remember the other word. Oh, it was for interest. Right. The other word hasn't come up in like 60 days, if not more. Kyumi. Yeah, Kyumi. No, Kyomi. Kyomi. Yeah, Kyomi. But we have Shumi. Actually, we have Shumi Shumi. The natural read. From Shashinko. Kareshi no Shumi wa... ski desu. Alright. Sure. Way to bring back ski from the unit with seasonal activities. Okay. Okay. Kareshi no shumi wa ski desu. I guess that's very useful. I mean, shumi is very useful. We can build whole dialogue chains around shumi.
趣味
Shumi.
ケンさんはよく釣りをします。
Ensan wa yoku tsuri o shimasu. Fishing? Neat? Tsuri. Oh, I know tsuri because tsuru is catch. Interesting. Like catch fish, or in the context of catching fish. Fishing. From Shashinko. Interesting. I see.
ケンさんはよく釣りをします。ケンさんはよく釣りをします。
Tsuri o shimasu. Tsuri o shimasu. Yeah, it's a lot more pronounced here. The Shashinko version is very, very soft. It sounds almost like tsuru. Tsuru. So tsuru. I have a habit of just saying tsuru instead of suru. And tsuri right here. Tsuri o shimasu. So Ken-san wa yoku tsuri o shimasu. Okay. And often was fishing. All the dots are connecting. So much reinforcement. It's almost like I don't even need to, it's almost like these aren't even new words.
アンドリューさんは釣りが大好きです。
Andoriu-san wa tsuri ga daisuki desu. Okay. Honto desu ka? Wait. What do we got? Honto desu ka? 素敵な趣味ですね. Yeah. Yeah. I could get behind that. That's a vibe right there. Really? That's a lovely hobby, isn't it? I like it. I like it. 素敵な趣味ですね. I have been wondering. I like the phrase 本当ですか? Or 真的吗? And then I didn't have quite a lot of things to follow it up. Like, oh, that sounds nice. That's probably what I would say. Or like, 本当ですか? いいですね. Right? Something like that. But 素敵な趣味ですね can come up quite a lot. Because oftentimes we talk about hobbies. Right?
甲斐さんは運転ができます。
Kai-san wa unten ga dekimasu. Unten ga dekimasu. Yeah. And I suppose we can use dekiru a lot more. Something like Nihongo ni skoshi Nihongo Oh, we could say 少し日本語花見花見に maybe 花見にができます。I don't know if that works or not. Where I know I'm capable of speaking a little Japanese. Huh. I wonder if that works. Because I'm applying two things that I have recently been exposed to. The idea that you can make... Oh, it's probably ga. We probably use ga. Hanami ga dekimasu. Does it work? Nihongo hanami ga dekimasu. 少し日本語hanami ga dekimasu. I'm applying like two things together, but I haven't actually seen them together. So this ga dekimasu is today's grammar point, and I'm combining it. No. Oh wait, maybe you don't have to conjugate it. I'm trying to see. No, hana in hanamu. Oh no. Oh sorry. Hanashi. Sorry, hanashi. Hanashi. I conjugated improperly. Hanashi ga dekimasu. Or can you not conjugate hanasu to hanashi to make it speak? And then you add ga dekimasu. So I'm doing multiple things here. First, I took hanas and turned it into hanashi. And then I'm applying this ga dekiru. Yeah, nihongo de. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, de. Oh, I'll use de. Oh yeah, I need nihongo de. That's right. Nihongo de hanami ga dekimasu. Okay. So I needed de. I forgot about a particle for nihongo. Hanashi. Sorry, yeah, hanashi. Yeah. I conjugated it wrong. I was thinking of something else. It's hanas. Yeah, hanas is the plain form. I had to take the plain form of hanamas. Like, I needed to think of the plain form properly. Yeah. Interesting. And then I added like a adjective or something because it's something I would say. 少し nihongo hanashi ga dekimasu. So that's combining a lot of things, which is neat. We have several grammar points today. There's another one coming up actually. It was spoiled by the guidebook. Shumi is here. We got Shumi, Lotus. Instead of what was the other one? Kyomi. Way back. Kyomi. We got Shumi. Now we can say how lovely and nice and wonderful hobbies are. You're all over the place today. Oh, which by the way, Lotus, now that we're not reviewing like yesterday, I had another thought about our conversation regarding your cultural encounter. This is a thought experiment, right? This is a thought experiment. We're not going to go too late into this because I want to keep this in a short day. But here's a thought experiment. What do you think if we turn the role reversal, right? I know this time next year or sometime you're gonna go to Japan, right? So we already talked about what it's like at the recipient end of the East meets West thing, where it's funny because a lot of the phrases that we want in Japanese, like when we talk about, oh yeah, we can talk about this now, we can talk about this now. However, that's the enthusiasm coming from the West. Because when you know how to say all these things, if you're gonna go to like an Asian country, for example, like a face culture country, and you want to be excited to get like the contextualize the more like in-depth conversations, right? The in-depth conversation. It actually doesn't typically happen when you go to a face culture country, because usually in the public space you don't talk about those things, right? So in a way, it's kind of humorous. I start thinking even deeper in this. It's kind of humorous that we as let's just say English speakers or like westernized culture people want conversations to be deeper, right? Like we want to enhance and talk about our hobbies, our like siblings, our family. We want to be able to do that. However, the first situations that we'll encounter as people who visit that country, right? Visit Japan, visit China, the chances of you focusing on those deeper conversations, like those things, you won't actually say those things. Most of the time it's about いいですね。ありがとうございます, right? Like こんにちは、こんばんは, right? そうです, right? Like those are the things that you will say and then it ends. So the idea is when you go there, and I feel Duolingo's perspective on this, where no, like if you get the first couple units and you get those things down, those are going to be the most frequent phrases you will be saying when you visit a face culture country, because in public spaces, it's proper decorum. You only acknowledge things and like say things like, this is good. I'm fine. I'm okay. You're great. Hello. Nice to meet you. And then that's it. You like carry on. That's, thank you. Like, how much is this? That'll be this. Thank you. And that's it. Like that's the massive amount, the vast majority of your conversations until you make a friend. But since you're visiting and not living there, the odds of pressuring or like being a little assertive is usually not how that works, right? But here's the thing. I was thinking about your situation. Now the question is, we kind of know a lot about the cultural standings of a face culture. A face culture in public decorum is upholding rules, like really stringently. Now here's the thing. If you take a Japanese person or someone from a face culture and they travel to a country that is almost individualistic in its face culture, as in like individualism and expressiveness comes with the friendly demeanor. That's like the social norm, right? Even pleasantries and small talk is a reflection of the person's individuality. So would you expect that if a Japanese person is very, very socially aware of their decorum in public space, in your situation, would it have been the Japanese way to be able to inform themselves that they should make small talk while they're in the United States because that's the social norm? Or are they so practiced in their social norms because they are a face culture that they do not partake in the westernized social norms? That, my friends, is what I was thinking about when I was taking a shower after my long run. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so wrapped up in metagame, right? And I can tell you, and I think the language has a lot to do with the style. Yeah, it really does. Because like, if you think about it, here's the thing, Lotus. When I went out to study Japanese, my thought was, oh, what can I use when I learn it, right? What part of the language can I use in Japanese to learn to use, right? But the real thing here is you have to understand that culturally, to be feeling like you're expressing is also kind of knowing how to culturally assimilate sort of way. And what I mean by that is it might be I might never feel comfortable engaging in small talk in Japanese because the large majority of the conversation and the way the language is tied to the culture is that small talk is not the usual talking thing in Japanese. So naturally, you get to a point where like, oh yeah, I learned enough, I think, that I'm feeling Japanese. So instead of saying I want to express myself per se, I've said this a couple of times, like I still want to try to, get my English side a little bit into the Japanese, but at the same time, I'm not holding my breath to think that I'm gonna bend Japanese so that I can say the same things and express myself the way I would in English. You know what I mean here? Like that was like the thought mania I had in my shower this morning. I was thinking about your situation and I thought, huh. So basically you achieved your goal, Lotus. If you know what I mean. Like you went out, you spoke Japanese, and it was very short, succinct, and you went on your way. Because that is what I would expect. I'm not saying that it's true for everyone, but the likelihood is that people from a face culture will likely still adhere to the thing that they're really, really concerned about, holding their respect of their social norms. English, on the other hand, kind of does the same thing, only the code swapping is reversed, right? Like you engage in small talk as you go to the country. So you attempt to feel like, oh yeah, I want to speak Japanese when I can. The answer is you speak Japanese when it's appropriate, not whenever you can. Not whenever you want to force yourself to speak Japanese as often as you can, because that's how you learn in English, right? English is a small talk language. You communicate by engaging in small talk. But in Japanese, it's like, no, you execute and then be happy with it, right? Say hello, thank you, nice to meet you, and nice to meet you, thank you, you've accomplished your task. Unfortunately, right, yeah, there's some urgency, like, oh yeah, but I wanted to use all my other stuff. It's like, well, you don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, what I mean is you're encouraged not to, even in the language itself and the situation. Totally, that's how you know you're fluent. When you take a phone call and only need to say yes, yep, so yes. I don't know, occasionally, if people will probably see some of this, occasionally when there are people here, my father sometimes walk in the house, and even the house communication is the same. Like my father would explain things and saying my response would be okay, 아봐요. 네. Okay. 띵나죠. Okay. 아봐요. All right. And then he walks away. Like he would be speaking like 4 to 5 paragraphs of specific things, and my only response would be and I have adopted words. My parents say okay too. They're like, okay, 네. 아봐요. I'm basically saying so, right? So, wakarimasu, right? It's like wakaru, like I'm basically saying I know. Okay, I'll do it later. That's it. That's like the normal conversation. I'm not like asking my father, oh, so what's this or what's that? Oh yeah, by the way, what did you do with? No, that's not. So most of the time when I see like Duolingo introducing specific phrases in Chinese, I'm like, yeah, that's about all the Chinese you really need when you walk in to a household. And it comes up so infrequently, and it's kind of a weird double standard, I think, Lotus. And what I mean by a double standard, in a very fun cultural way. You want the opportunity to flex your Japanese, or in my opinion, you want the opportunity as a language learner to flex like your Chinese, your Japanese when you can. The culture themselves aren't really focused on small talk. So that's why I actually think moving to Japan is a great thing, because you get to make a lot of friends. Yeah, I gotta make some Japanese friends to show off. Yeah, exactly. Or you either have really good friends that are uncharacteristically talkative. I'm gonna be real. I think that Asian cultures, especially phase cultures, tend to talk less and listen more because of the fear of basically embarrassment, right? The fear of saying something inappropriate, or the fear of like talking too much, right? So it's often like a turn-based thing as opposed to an overzealousness of friendliness, or like a different type of friendliness. It's more like mutual respect. Like, I am friendly to you because I'm giving you your space. So if you want to talk, I'm going to listen, and I will acknowledge actively that I'm listening, as opposed to I must contribute something to the conversation in order to appear friendly, right? That's kind of like the thing that I have with my parents. I've have become far more hyper focused on these things nowadays. Like my parents and my interaction, they're one-sided. So each time, if the person who initiates the conversation is the person who's speaking the entire time, and then the other person predominantly responds, and that's it. That's the end of the transaction. And then maybe like 5 minutes later, my father would approach me, and I will be the one listening. So most of my responses will be to actively respond back, and they're really short. They're like Duolingo phrases, like, wakarimashita. That's it. Like, like, ii desu ne. Like, honto desu ka? Ii desu ne. Ah, like, like, so. That's it for the most part. So it feels weird. Meanwhile, we're doing this in English, at least in my opinion. In English, you have a lot of descriptors of expressing the same thing. So even if it means saying the same thing back, it's normal, as opposed to in Japanese, if you say the same thing back, it's awkward. Like, are you like, genki desu, and then you say genki, that's fine, that's as close as it gets. But when you say, oh, do you like baseball? Yes, I do like playing baseball, as opposed to I like it, or like I like. That's it. Like, but if you say, do you like baseball? It's like, oh, I like baseball too. That's normal. At least in my opinion, it sounds like it's something you can happen in English. But in Japanese, or at least I'm going to say in Chinese, it would be acknowledging that you heard the question, and you wouldn't say the words back. You would just say yes. Or that is correct. I like baseball. Or me too. Or something that isn't like redundant with whatever the other person is saying. And that's kind of how I feel right now about Japanese. Like, I don't get to say a lot, but you say a lot less to mean a lot more. And that's not to say that there's a quantity versus quality thing. Like, there's a nuance to it. I think in English, especially for interpersonal skills, when you acknowledge that you heard something of the other person and you use those words back, in my opinion, culturally, that demonstrates that you are listening and actively participating in conversation. Meanwhile, I feel a lot of times in Japanese and in Chinese, when you simplify your response, it's showing that you're paying attention, that the redundancy is there. So like, instead of, saying like, I like basketball, and it's like, oh, me too, I like playing basketball. But I play basketball. It's like, me too, I like playing basketball. It's more like, I like basketball, me too. I'm like, that's it, me too. Watashi mo. I guess watashi mo suki desu, or something. You don't say like basketball again or something like that. It gets shortened and it gets faster. It gets shortened. In English, it can get longer. Like things can get longer, and that's pretty much it. Sorry, Lotus. That I had so many thoughts about your transaction because now you are in a unique situation where you're greeting someone into another one, so you got the rare opportunity. I'm like blowing this out of proportion, but you got the rare opportunity where you are the host. Like you are the host, and that is so very funny. Like sometimes I mean, like, I'm highlighting how Japan, like, East meets West is different, but the behavior of a human being is still similar. So, you know, you do the thing you're used to, you do the thing that you're trained to do. So I am not surprised at all that both you and the other people might had an awkward interaction, because the Japanese people, the visitors, will likely be adhering to what they're used to doing, and you are adhering to what you're used to doing. Meanwhile, you're using the language to bridge the culture. And I think that's a super cute. That's almost like YouTube clip scripted skip material. And that interaction happens pretty much anytime my parents are in like the conversation with my friends and stuff. It happens all the time. Like my parents would sit there and they would like smile and nod, and they might know or they might not know, but they wouldn't say much. And then the other parents, who are like westernized parents, they would feel the urge to constantly talk and, you know, get friendlier and whatnot, and you just see the social clashes. It's not a bad or a good thing. They occupy the same space, and they're mutually understanding of each other. Like my parents know that they've lived in this country long enough that they know that that's how it's perceived as being friendly. So they smile, they nod, and they make the attempt, right? And then the other parents would be like, oh yeah, you know, they'll be fine with it. It's not like they don't have to feel awkward that they want to talk and it's one-sided, because you have to understand that exchanges tend to be one-sided. Oh, one person's listening actively by not saying a lot, and then the other person is sharing because it's their turn, right? And I don't think, and whenever I have a conversation between my parents and I, like equally exchanging back and forth, those things will take hours, like incredibly long hours, because now you have two parties that are actively involved in it. In English, it's like you can change the thought immediately. Like, oh, sorry, let's just go on a tangent and now let's talk about Indian. And it'll be fine. Like the swapping and stuff, because we're exchanging small talk. So funny. I can't wait to think about all these things when I visit Japan. It's going to be so interesting. I think largely, though, I would probably go in the route of what I typically do when I speak to other Chinese people. Basically, I learn how to execute all the common phrases, right? And if I'm able to do that and operate in a public space formally, regardless, that is the goal. You know how to acknowledge, know how to excuse yourself, right? Make sure that you are behaving properly. And then if I get lucky, maybe get lucky, you bump into someone maybe in a nightlife. So, you know, you go out late at night where there's appropriateness for socializing. That's probably where I would try. Like, go out with 2 or 3 people, like someone like my parents or my sister or something, later in the evening, where you are more likely to encounter people who are talking. Yeah, and I look forward to that. I definitely look forward to that. So in the morning, in the morning and daytime, it's about listening, right? You're observing the culture, you're maintaining yourself, and you're gonna try to people watch and then behave in that like sharp, public space thing, but then you hit the nightlife and then you get an opportunity, maybe drop by like izakaya and have some pleasant interactions, right? That's the closest thing I would say culturally. And I think it's the same for Chinese, really. If not, you go to a back alley. This sounds like so weird. You go into an alley mom and pop shop where there are tons of people yelling at the top of their lungs, and you go there to practice. And that's basically what most people do in the United States anyways. The ones that want to like speak Chinese or try to exchange something, you go to a marketplace. You go to a marketplace during the day if you have to go to it during the day. If you encounter someone like in the street, they're gonna be asking you a question. If they approach you, they're gonna be asking you a question. You stand there, you respond to the question, and you provide the answer, and then you leave. That's typically the response you'll have. However, for Chinese, I would say definitely hit up a local eating spot, and then you just sit there, get blinded by all the yelling. And the one thing that I can't really get accustomed to anymore, like it's very hard, is I have like sensitive hearing, like hearing that I get overwhelmed by loud noises. So one of the things that are ever exhausting when it comes to hanging out with my extended family and being in the environment that they grew up in, which is so normal for them, is that everything in Chinatown and like the main Chinese hub, they're like 2 magnitudes louder. Like everything is so loud, and that's when you know you can practice your Chinese. And you can see that most of the time, like the influencers that go around practicing their Chinese, they'll pick either a marketplace or an eating place because that's the most appropriate places. If you see like a Chinese person on an airport, like or yours, they would probably say yes, and that's probably what you're gonna get. You might get a hi and and good day, probably something like, or like a nod or a smile. That's as much as you'll get in my opinion, because when my parent, like when they travel, they're going to say as little as possible so that they don't embarrass themselves, or they'll only say things that they are capable of saying. Even if you approach them with Chinese, the Chinese would be like, oh, that's awesome, your Chinese is good. That sounds so familiar, doesn't it? The Nihongo Jozo thing. Like, your Chinese is great. And it's like, thank you. It's like, and then that's it. There's no follow-up. Like, and you're like talking to them. Yeah, you're like talking to him, and then they're like, yeah, okay, oh, haha. That's you should. My father's face is all generally the same, and he would nod yes and stuff. And then when he goes to ask me what he thinks that person said, it could be like way off. It could be, I'm like, that's not what he said. And then he would be like, oh, okay. But he wouldn't say anything about it. He wouldn't like say, oh, can you explain this again? Or I don't know what this means. Like, he wouldn't engage in it. He would make some assumptions, implications, and then when he finds an appropriate time, he would ask me what the person said. And then that's kind of how it goes. For what I remember, I have a lot of shared features of this from growing up in Texas. Yeah. Wait, for WIW? Oh, there, Jonathan. Yeah, so that's kind of it. And I started thinking, like, your interaction, I feel for the Japanese. It's really interesting trying to explain to my girlfriend all the nuances of the conversation she doesn't catch. For what it's worth. Oh, for what it's worth. Yeah. Yes, exactly. The nuances of the conversation, yeah. I think this stuff is hilarious. Or it's so good coffee table talk. But the paradox here is, you have to be really, really close to a Chinese person or a Japanese person to have this type of coffee table talk, because having it with a stranger or sharing like candid conversation in public can be very immature. It can be very childish, and that's not saying that it's childish because you do it in a different culture. It's in the social norm of the like the culture we're talking about, like Chinese culture at least. It can be very touchy if you start candidly speaking. Yes, I am on Twitch too, Jonathan. I'm live on both. So I like both. There's a time and place for it. I just think it's hilarious when it's in the same room. I went to occasionally I would find myself in these situations, and I like sitting there in between everything. And you know what's even greater than this? Imagine a picture. Picture this, and it's happened once or twice in my life. There's a group of Chinese people, right? Our relatives, both our relatives and parents. And then you have friends along who are American, right? It's like third gen Americans. And then I have one or two other people who are second gen Lotus. And we would sit there and we would sit in the middle. Just think about like a movie frame, right? Just me, right? Me here. I'm sorry. Right, this is the picture. So me here and my friend here, and then you have like two groups of people, right? And they're talking to each other. So you have our like relatives and stuff, so native gens, right? Asian. And then you have our friends who are like third gen Americans, right? Oh, you like Twitch better? Welcome. Is that you, Jonathan? People. Third gen. And then you have this second gens, and we're like, oh man, I feel for you. And it's like, oh man, I feel for you. Like you're having two groups like, I know exactly. Yeah, we kind of know what's happening over there, but we definitely know what's happening over there too. And then we say nothing. Right, in the middle, we're just like, nah. Let's just let them go. Let's see how they navigate this. And then at some point, when they're done with their conversation, it's our turn. So then we interact with the two groups separately and behave according to that. So we would talk to our third gen Americans in a specific way because that's the most friendly and most appropriate, and then we communicate what they missed, and then you do the other way too. And I feel whoever is in an intercultural, like a multicultural relationship with someone, or you have children who are multicultural, would be able to empathize with the situation. Like, oh yeah, so you do a code swap, right? You do a cultural code swap between the two things, and you wouldn't be feeling like it's awkward doing it. It's very natural because you've done this. You're in this situation oftentimes, and this situation you might be thinking, oh, this usually it's us and them, right? The OG and the second gen, and then we would have a separate situation where it's the third gen and the second gen, right? And I think this stuff is what makes me think of your situation. So much fun. I think just sitting there watching people navigate their cultural nuances is like watching good TV. There are some television shows, like long-running streaming shows that do these kind of things, and I love watching it. And when you watch it with like third gens or like OGs or diasporas, you get a different perspective. And watching these shows, if people are really into these shows, it's so much fun having coffee table talk around it, because each of the generations will have a different pickup on the nuances of that conversation. And that, to me, is what a great form of appropriation is. Unfortunately, obviously, having delved a lot into multicultural content, sometimes there is, misappropriation, which is where they forcibly create situations where it doesn't reveal that nuance. It's one-sided. Like, the idea is it's pretty clear that this is only depicting one side of the nuance, right? Like, for example, what is a form of misappropriation is something like the whole program is showing how one culture is overpowering another culture just because they want to show that kind of thing can get a little dicey. But when you described me, I wanted to be there, Lotus. Like, I wanted to be that friend that was also going on the plane trip with you, but I decided not to engage with the Japanese people, and you decide to, and I just sit there and watch. that's kind of what I was describing. You were the third gen, and then you interacted with some natives, and I'm just in the middle. I'm like, this is so interesting. Let's unpack this right now. And then I'm doing that now. So that's kind of what I'm apologizing, but I love it. I love that there are people like you, Lotus, who are engaging in people who are traveling from another country, because if you, like people like you, and the people you're interacting with do not come together, right? People like me don't exist. You see what I mean here? Like, when you're describing that stuff, what I see is that's the coming together of cultures, because you wouldn't have multicultural people otherwise. You would have monocultural people, and that's what made me think about it like all evening, and then in the morning as well. You're gonna learn Arabic, huh? Hey yo, good luck, good luck, good luck. All right. Anyways, thanks for that. It's very invigorating. Now I'm even more likely to continue learning Japanese. Thank you. All right.
はい、アンドリューさんは運転ができます。
Okay. I just wanted to, I don't know if I give you the impression, but I think regardless of how insecure you might feel or how nervous you might feel, that is genuinely, in my opinion, how at least I can say Chinese people in the United States feel when you try to go up to them and talk with them in like the appropriate space. Like if you go up to a restaurant or go up to a place of commerce, right, and you start trying to talk Chinese, it's rarely ever, the insecurity is rarely ever pushed by the person you're talking to. It's often self-created, because it's incredible that there are other people who are willing to learn your language. And I think in the Japanese space, you got to find that a place, because I don't think for an ounce of my being that if you go out in the nightlife, go into an izakaya and start like messing up your Japanese, but you are unapologetic and confident in trying to converse in an appropriate cultural space, that the Japanese person would be like, oh yeah, like, can you be a little bit more respectful and speak my language? Like that would rarely be the case, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, when it's in an appropriate place, right? Like they're there to talk. And that's kind of how I feel about the insecurity thing. You still can't help but feel nervous, right? Because face culture. Oftentimes, I think the insecurity about face culture in Japan is well-founded, because during the daytime, it's the formal time. Like when you're in a place of activity and business, when people are going about their business, it is in that insecurity is well felt, because that insecurity is felt by the face culture. Like my parents are legitimately always overly concerned about their politeness and stuff during the day, during operations. And I imagine that's how it feels in Japan. So when you go up to like a convenience store clerk, right, and you say something in Japanese and it's kind of rough, right? Now you're insecure that, oh no, I alerted this person. But then again, the other person is probably really alert too, because it's their job. In a face culture, you have to be ready. So they'll panic and pull out their English card and stuff and make sure that the transaction happens as smoothly as possible. So then you have this awkward transaction where both groups are ironically acting like each other. Literally. Like, what I mean is, that is the most Japanese response a foreigner can have to a most Japanese response, in my opinion, to the situation. You have two people who are overly insecure that they might have said something in the person's target language incorrectly, and that is kind of it's beautiful. I think it's one of those, like, it's a smile situation in which I hope that both those people know that they're both kind of like equally the same right now. Oops, I accidentally said, oh yeah, is this like the bag thing? Wait, oh no, you said something that looks like oh kairimasu instead of oh I need your mother, rather than any of that. Oh yeah. What, did you mention that to me the other day about the bag thing? Someone mentioned to me about the bag thing where they said something else for a bag but not another bag. There was another bag discussion about that, and that's why they're nervous at 7-Eleven. Yeah, that's what I mean too. And you know what's funny about that? I think the store clerk, right, if they see that you're a foreigner, they will probably be ready for it. You know what I mean? So they would be nervous. It's like, oh yeah, but okay, let's remember, there is a chance that if they say this, you know, because it has happened to them, and it's probably going to happen to you, right? But in a weird, like, similar way. So you're both equally nervous, and I think that is almost a purest Japanese situation where both people feel the same thing about their opposing target language. And then when you go into like the nightlife and like the izakaya at night and whatnot, then things are different, because now you have liberties, you know, the restraints are gone. So people make mistakes, people speak mistakes. I mean, who knows, you might find someone who tries to speak English and say something weird in English, but it's a fun time because it's appropriate, right? When you're outside the house, when my parents are doing their business, when they're shopping, they don't say very much. And then my friends will be around, like that's as much as you can get. When you get in the house, there is a chance when they need to loosen up and whatnot, then things get said in both English and whatever target language it is, right? And your mistakes are going to be made in both ways. So my parents would say something like, oh, I don't know, I can't think of things my parents say that's weird. I guess whenever they refer to like a lady friend as he, that happens a lot, but no one bats an eye because they know exactly what they're talking about. So those are the situations, and I hope I get a chance to find those situations in Japan whenever I visit. I mean, my sister probably knows a lot more than I do since she lives there, so we'll let that be the guide. Yeah, Japanese friends. My girlfriend's mom calls her he daily. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's usually what happens. And my the it takes a while, but my friends would like look at me and say, is your mother referring like is your father referring to her? And like yeah, her. That's it. Like, oh, okay. That's it. Like that's how it works. Because at some point in a personal space, I feel Asians or Chinese people at least are more loose with their tongue, but not generally in the time where most people want to practice their Chinese, right? Like in manners of like transit or something. Oh, you bump into someone on the streets. The most appropriate thing to do is probably look at them. Maybe I don't even think you should make eye contact. You just like bow, but like not looking at them, but looking in the general direction of them, and then you bow or like you acknowledge that they exist or something, and that's it. You don't even get to say hi. If you say hi, that's kind of weird. Like that. So what do you do as a language learner, right?
はい、アンドリューさんは運転ができます。
You go find when they're a little bit more loose lipped. So that's kind of what I mean sometimes when you'd be surprised how learning something about the culture and feeling about the culture. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, Lotus, but knowing about the culture can also enable you to learn the language quite a lot more, because a lot of times people talk about you sound natural, right? To sound natural in a language. Well, you also have to act natural as well to find opportunities to sound natural. So if you're saying that just speaking to a native speaker whenever you can is going to help you sound natural, well, if you approach someone and you're doing like greetings and talking about personal things in a public space, like in front of a 7-Eleven or something, you might sound natural, but you are learning things unnaturally. Like if you're really concerned about natural things, I'm generally even looser than that. But my thought is, like, you see these videos and stuff, and they talk about certain things in certain places. It's like, I can tell you now, when someone goes into a restaurant and they try to like discern what, like, there's this stereotype that happens a lot where like you go into a takeout Chinese restaurant, right? And then you order something, and then the first thing that you hear is someone yelling to the back, and then they're yelling back. And oftentimes people would try to guess what they're saying, right, from the outside, and be like, oh yeah, they're probably like, I probably was an inconvenience. I said that I wanted this and I wanted that. And my parents would be trying to describe their best what the customer wants to the other person. Only they're yelling because that's the typical volume, because it's really loud in the restaurant. The restaurant has a lot of metal, like, clanking and stuff while cooking. So we joke a lot of times, like, oh yeah, they're probably talking about how I was like very white and like I needed my sauce on the side and stuff. I know that's usually not what my parents are yelling. My parents are trying to describe to the cook that, oh yeah, make sure this is like, we need this on the side, like don't add too much or something. Whether they listen or not is also a different story, but generally speaking, the nuances are quite deep. I usually joke a lot about when I played on this stereotype just for fun momentarily, when a friend would ask like, what is your father and mother saying so rapidly and so loudly? It's like, oh yeah, no, they're just talking about getting a divorce. Like, it's okay, it's not you. Like, they're just talking about getting a divorce. They're in the middle of a fight. And then I would like smile. I can't keep it. I would smile and say, no. That's just the way they're talking. They're actually just talking about how great the weather is right now, angrily and very loudly. They're arguing about how nice the weather is. My father thinks it's nice, it's this type of nice, and my mother thinks it's a different type of nice. It's just when Asian, when Chinese people talk, they really get into it, even though it's just about the weather. And it's like, oh, well, okay. And then then my like mother would laugh, and then my friend would ask something like, now what are they talking about? It seems like they're having a fun time. It's like they're complaining about bills. And my mother is laughing because it's ridiculous. It happens way more than I would like to admit. Yeah, random change of topic. Random change of topic. Bye. Where are you getting random to? This is the top headline from NHK. How much can you read? Okay. So, let me see. Eating. No idea what that is. No idea what that is. Teru. No idea what that is. Something to do. No, I can't. Okay, so all I can tell you is I can read none of the kanji, but maybe I can guess. Maybe something about presidents? Or, I don't know. One kind of looks like Obama. So maybe there's a word kanji for presidents in it somewhere. And then, yeah, none of my Hanzi is useful as well. I see something that kind of looks like can. Maybe can do something or should have done something. Man, no, I don't know any of those. In fact, I probably am more likely to recognize them as Hanzi at this point. It's a question. There's a question. There's an unknown marker. There's a destination, and there's a, you see all the particles. What does the deru part mean? Because? Yeah, I can't read any of that. Obama definitely gives it away, though. And Biden and Obama gives it away. Biden's chance of winning is low. Okay, coming from Obama's group. I see. Oh, that's group. Oh, interesting. Like a party group? And that's where coming from. Oh, is that the word? Oh, okay. That's the thing from... That's coming. I see. Yeah, so if that was the top headline from NHK today, I would probably have guessed it had something to do with the presidential chances. To transit information. Oh, okay. And very topical. Thank you. Very topical. And yeah, no. Still a long ways to go. Still a long ways to go. Yeah. Biden's chances. Interesting. Which part is chances? I see where winning is. Is it the thing between ga? The thing surrounding ga? Oh, it's that one. Never mind. Okay. Oh, and that's low. Okay. Oh, is that hakui? Hikui. Sorry, hikui. For low, hikui. Hikui. Is it that? Kui, yeah. Ikui. Okay, I just got that recently, and it was describing chairs are low at a bad wedding. So, hikui, and then probability. I guess that has nothing to do with tabun. Is there tabun anywhere in there, like a read something that's similar to tabun? Transit information. I don't think I have any like reads related to transit information. It's spelled out. Okay, probability. Kanose. Kanose. Okay, kanose. Okay. Oh, it's a say word. I see. I do like that regardless of how complicated the kanji is, you're able to like translate the things. And then if you translate the things, I still remember all the words and the reads associated with its sound. So like hikui was taught as hikui. So I still know low and hikui. So one day when the kanji comes along, like now, there's a chance it takes less exposure to get to remember hikui. I'm probably going to remember hikui out of all the things that you mentioned there. Other than I see Biden is spelled Biden and Obama was spelled Obama.
はい、アンドリューさんは運転ができます。
How may I ask if you go on the NHK site and you swap it to the easy one, how does that change between like the easy and the hard? Like, have you done that before where like you just compare it and contrast the easy side? I haven't done it myself yet because I think I'm still a ways out from finding enough particular vocabulary to be reading stuff. It's not too long from now, but like when you're swapping, have you ever looked at the same, like took a screenshot of the same article, like in both? They don't have this particular article on the easy. Okay, so have you tried finding, I haven't done this yet. I was going to do it in the future where one of the things I would do for reading comprehension is I would take a screenshot. I would prepare the screenshot in advance. I would take an article and I would take a screenshot of both those articles and I put them side by side and then see if I can like bridge comprehension. So the idea is if I am able to comprehensively read the easier article, how can I use that to describe and form an association with the harder article, if you know what I mean, so that you can develop like advanced techniques. So that's the thing that I've done before with science. When you're trying to like, how do you describe when you're giving like seminars and stuff, how do you describe this event and this phenomenon using specialized language versus how would you do this in a classroom setting? So a lot of times that's what I'm thinking I will probably do in the future with technical reading, because I like reading technical stuff, as in I like reading current events things. So I want to be able to read NHK. So it's great that you're reading news articles, because I think we can talk about these things a few years down the line, because I do enjoy keeping it on top of my topical thing. So I if you have a chance, it would be really interesting to hear your thoughts on an article that is written in easy and that same article written hard, if it ever occurs. That would be fantastic. That would be something really academically and intellectually interesting to talk about. Like, what exactly do they think is hard, and how did they circumnavigate making it easier to understand? So then you can associate like, oh yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. And that to me is kind of like me talking if I'm gonna teach genetics, right? And I'm coming from a different background in genetics, and I go to like a high school, and I ask the student, what do you think this means? And then they would describe it in like a way that's like, you know what? That's a great way to describe it. Like, thank you. That kind of thing is what I'm talking about when I talk about the NHK site. There is a lot to be gathered when you can simplify, like not simplify things, but speak appropriately in two different levels. You're not making the idea any weaker or shorter. Maybe that's what the Japanese people do. But for me, I often like to be able to explain complicated things without having to sound complicated, right? One of the mantras that I have about teaching is that teaching complicated things is not the same, like speaking appropriately to teach complicated things is not the same as simplifying things. When you simplify things, you lose the nuance, you lose the complexity. It overgeneralizes the thing when your focus is on simplification. So like telling someone, oh, don't worry, just play the game, you'll get better. That's oversimplifying. It makes it simpler for sure, like it makes it easier to understand, but you are also oversimplifying. You are generalizing to the point where it is no longer a helpful statement, right? Just play the games. Like no kidding, they're just going to play the game. That doesn't explain anything, right? That kind of thing. And I think that happens a lot over time when someone becomes super talented or super great at something. They forget to know how, or they are under practice in how to explain things without either cutting all the corners or not having the patience to do so, or they don't have the vocabulary anymore to do so. Like when someone says like, oh, I can't explain this, it's too complicated, or this is really complicated, you'll know why soon enough. I'm like, okay. I mean, I'll take your word for it, but mind you, that's not teaching anything. You know, it tells me that this person is not interested in teaching, or that they're not very great at explaining things, right? Because it's obvious. If you can't explain it, then you don't actually know the person you're talking to actually know the thing. Sometimes you have to engage in that. And I would love to know how to explain complicated headlines. And you're doing a great job, obviously, Lotus, because you're breaking down the sentences and stuff. You're thinking about it from a perspective of how do I get to the path of getting someone to understand. That's probably why we talk quite often.
はい、アンドリューさんは運転ができます。
It makes me believe that you do a job that you're responsible for other people. Not that being a multi-billionaire and a 3-star Michelin chef doesn't give it away, you know?
はい、アンドリューさんは運転ができます。
Okay.
はい、
はい、アンドリューさん。
アンドリュー。はい、アンドリューさんは運転ができます。
Undo. How'd you guys break this up? Where's unten?
運転
Unten
が
ga dekimasu.
できます。 3、
Taka-san. Have you ever met someone who you had to work with, but they were in a position in a professional background that only concerns themselves? It is very, very different talking to someone like that. I have met quite a few brilliant people in my life, like had the privilege, but they have to do certain things that are very different, right? Like if you're a leader, like if you're a specialist, it is very difficult sometimes, and it's not a fault of their own because they spend most of their time dedicated to their specialized knowledge. So you have to be understanding that if you speak to that person, sometimes comprehension is like nearly non-existent. Like they know what they're talking about, but you might not know what they're talking about, and they might not be aware of it as well because they have to spend almost like the entirety of their life being that way, right? So it would be natural to be a little bit more sympathetic and be tolerant. Like, can you explain that again? And they're like, what do you mean, can I explain it again? This is as simple as it can get. I'm like, are you sure? Because I still don't get it. You know, that happens sometimes. And you're trying to be as apologetic as possible, but at the same time, you really want to learn from this person. But it's like, man, your lowest output is still not comprehensible to me. I think I've been... that's oftentimes people's encounters of that is usually from a professor to a student situation. However, it happens in the professional field too. You meet this incredible person, you think like their work is incredible, but then when you go to talk to them, you might not know if you're going to have a great smooth conversation or you're going to have a very detached conversation where this person says like really brilliant things and you're like, yep. And then when you walk away, you're just like, I can't, like, it's like 30% there. I understood like 30% of what this person's trying to tell me. And then I'm grateful for it. But at the same time, I'm like, man, if only one of us was more competent. Either I needed to be more competent, or that other person, you would wish you were lucky enough to meet a charismatic, like a charismatic and intact like speaker, right? But oftentimes when someone is very, very good at what they do, they don't necessarily have the time to be like a teacher or an educator. There's a reason why they're not a teacher or an educator, because they don't have enough time to be. So oftentimes people have this stereotype where teachers and coaches are people who weren't good enough to be specialists. But it's a chicken or the egg question. How do you be a good teacher and an educator? You need to spend time being a good teacher and educator. Being a great specialist does not mean you practice the skills necessary for teaching or coaching. So you kind of one might say, give up that. But honestly, those who love teaching and coaching chose that as a trade-off. So I'm not trying to overcompensate or for being mediocre, but generally speaking, I would classify myself as pretty mediocre at most of my skills, when the point of reference are the specialists, right? You cannot be exceptional at Japanese, like super exceptional at Japanese as a second language, if you're going to give up some of that time constantly talking about how you can teach this stuff using English, for example. Like, if you are a super good Japanese speaker and you spend and breathe your life as Japanese, you're going to have to spend some of that time understanding English again and how Japanese translates to English, because that's where most people start. Or like, that's where a lot of people start, right? A significant number of people. So are you going to spend that time doing that? Instead of studying Japanese, you're going to spend time learning a little bit of Hindi, English, Spanish, French, so that you can use those experiences to help people bridge into Japanese from those languages. Or you go around and say, just move to Japan and learn in Japanese with Japanese and comprehend nothing for 3 years or something, right? That is a choice. That's probably not the choice you made, because you probably have forgotten how you went about it. I'm recording myself doing this largely because I'm probably going to forget how I started at some point, or like it's going to be such a distant past that I really probably won't remember how I feel. I I could probably say something blanket like I was probably happy at the time because I'm regularly. Oh wait, what's the word? I just learned the vocabulary for happy today. It's a different happy though. Shiawase? I think it's like shiawase. What's the difference, Lotus? One last question. What's the difference between shiawase and ureshi? Oh, Lotus, you already read my mind, but I was just about to. Because ureshi is introduced in shashinko. So shashinko, I already know ureshi. However, today I just learned shiawase. So can you tell me a nuanced use? Are there nuanced uses of shiawase and ureshi? Okay, shiawase, happiness, good fortune, luck, blessing. Okay. Because I was gonna look this up in the evening. All right. Well, that's what happens when you have to organize a garage door opener and a bunch of problems happened, and then warranty, and then talking to a bunch of people. Okay, now I'm back. All right. Usual daily life of having to translate things. So I'm gonna have to deal with that later. All right. I'm gonna be back. Good to be back.
はい、アンドリューさんは運転ができます。
Okay. 運転ができます。Okay.
ケンさんは赤い車を持っています。
What did I get for dinner? If only that was dinner. That's a little early. Okay. Oh, right. We got motte iku. Yeah. I was here. Motte imasu.
持っています。
Yeah. So, I talked about this earlier, right? Lotus, you gave me that video about motte when that other motte kuru showed up, right? So right now, all they're assuming is that you only use it in this context, in this translation. But we all know, like from what I gathered, right? Motte kuru, motte iku, and stuff, they are special classes, right? They're special classes. So yeah, it's a big rabbit hole. But I'm only going to assume right now that motte imasu, right, is gonna be used as motte imasu. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. And then the other one was motte kuru, right? Motte kimashita. But we did get the kanji right away for motte imasu, for whatever reason, they decided that this is the mote. but it's the same kanji, so that's good, right? Both like the mote part, they say it's the same. Now, whether it's combined with iku or uru, we don't pretend like we know. I totally get it though. I see what, and also there was I kind of sort of teased and looked into kanko no kondemas and how it relates to sundemas. And yeah, I don't know if do they go into that? Do they eventually go into using that with other things? You know, because that's a different thing as well. Like sundemas and kondemas. It's not sumu. It's not off of a tense that I have of sumu and komu. You will never explain, but you will gradually use it more and more. Okay. And then and what I mean by that is they won't explain it, but do they show it to the point where you're like, yeah, this makes sense. And maybe using it a bunch and you'll get it. Yeah, okay. So they do, okay. Because so far we have that class, that tense that I saw on a table, that tense for day, like how sundemas, like sumu becomes sundemas, and then komu becomes kondemas. Or the relationship between those two. Because I also encountered komu in a different way a couple times now. All right. Anyways, more fun stuff. Ken-san wa akai kuruma o motte imasu.
持っています。
I see. That I see how they went about that. They kind of sort of went with the same way that they did with like Adu and Idu. Yeah. They kind of sort of went with the same way as Adu and Idu, the way they interpret it. They can kind of sort of relate it to Adu and Idu. Sort of. Okay. Huh. Hey, is this Ken? Yeah. I'll make sure.
生物学
生物学. Oh, I have another question. Butsu. Does Butsu have anything to do with life? Because so far, the pattern here, a lot of times, is when Butsu comes in, it has something to do with like living or like a lot of things that deal with like categorizations of animal life, plants, and stuff. What is Butsu? I know Gaku. Gaku is pretty. Butsu is the mono kanji. Oh, it is. Oh, it's a mono kanji. Oh, that's just life, huh? Well, what I mean is stuff, but stuff have different types of stuff, right? And I feel like Butsu comes up whenever life is involved, like animals. So like like dobutsu, and then we have shokubutsu, and then now we have seibutsu. Right, but mono can come up in different ways too, like tabemono and kaimono, right? It's not. This didn't end up being seimono gaku, but you could see it as seimono gaku in some way. So I have often been curious because Butsu doesn't quite roll off the tongue, so it's very memorable whenever a something Butsu comes up. Ikimono? Oh. Come on. Alright, never mind. Thanks. So not in all cases, not sure. Yeah. That sucks. It is fun to ask though, since you know these little funny patterns are what you notice in Duolingo. That's all you got, right? You got like Duolingo things. Suspicious, but no dice, no dice. Ekenbutsu. Oh, you're right. I see. What about the butsu in museum and art? Yeah, an art museum. What about the butsu in that? Is that mono too? Wait, isn't there a butsu in one of them? I've forgotten those because you don't use them very often. Let me see if I remember. Hakubutsu, right? Hakubutsukan. And kan is a good one. Kan is a designator, but like, is that mono too? Mono too? Yeah, Hakubutsukan. Hakubutsukan. Yeah, that's probably mono too, right? Because there's like stuff in it. And then kan is a place. Kan is a place marker, like a very specific nuanced place marker. So Hakubutsukan. Probably mono as well. Because there are things inside something. I don't know what the haku part means yet though. Hakutsukan. Let me see. I'm looking at the kanji now. It's yeah, I don't recognize anything related to haku at the moment. And then there's oh no, art museum doesn't have one. It's like Bijutsukan. Yeah, Bijutsukan. Wasn't there? Okay, never mind. Suizokukan was the aquarium, so nothing there. I don't know that first one either. Oh yeah, art museum, yeah. You don't know the haku? Oh, yeah, whatever haku means. That haku.
生物学
Seibutsugaku. Okay. Anyway,
屋
okujo,
上
Shumi.
shumi. Okay,
Tsuri.
tsuri. And
免許
menkyo. I wonder why they went with the Sui one comes out more because Sui, it reminds me of Chinese. So the Sui one comes up way more than, like, in my mind. Sui Zokukan comes up as it reminds me of a Chinese word. Associations, right? Associations. Especially leveraging old experiences. Leveraging old experiences is unfathomably powerful, right? Like tsuri. So tsuri is new, but because of Shashinko, I already know it's fishing. Tsuri when it was first introduced. Because tsuru is to catch or fish. Because of Shashinko. So tsuri would be related. Akai kuruma.
車
Kuruma o motte imasu. Aww, it's a neko. Oh, I can write neko now. Whoops. By doing the wrong stroke order. And the funny thing about neko is that it's in Shashinko, but I haven't extracted the writing yet. And it's not Shashinko that I learned it from. I actually learned it from Hanzi. Because this is Mao. I learned this first from Hanzi, and now it's reinforced through Shashinko, and now I already learned how to write it, and I still haven't gotten it. I still haven't gotten the kanji in Duolingo Japanese. What a world! What a time to be! What a time to have different forms of input and association. You know? You know? Oh, you know what? Oh, I can remember mote as well. Because it has the hand and it has the hold. And this looks very suspiciously like the kanji for motsu. Because of Shashinko. Yeah, motsu. Yeah. And the reason why I know motsu is because I know matsu. Because matsu, you just swap out the radical. This is matsu. Yeah, this is matsu, to wait. Yeah, these guys are related because of this kanji here. Oh, and the right is the... Oh, this is the kanji for temple? Oh, interesting. Like, otera? Like tera? Interesting. Okay. Otera. Okay. Cool. Cool. Very cool. Yeah. Yeah, this is Matsu. The wait. Thanks to Shashinko. Okay. Neat. Very neat. Okay.
生物学。
生物学。
趣味、屋上、釣り。
You know what's a cool one? When I think about fishing, nagasuru. No, sorry, nagasu? I think it's nagasu. Yeah, nagasu. Nagasu. I'm still in the process of extracting these. It's a really cool kanji too. It kind of looks like a thing that would flow around. It kind of looks like an octopus with some water on the side. I think it looked... I don't quite know the stroke order, but it kind of looks like this. Something like that. Oh no, wait. I think that's just no, this is turned the other way. So it's like that. It looks like a little squid thing. You'll see this on the toilet everywhere. Oh, right. Flow. Oh, right. That makes so much sense. Nagasu. Oh, no. That toilet conversation we had when I was playing Wagotabi and you were talking about the buttons in the toilet. Oh, no. That's coming back too. Oh, no. We have too much potty talk. We gotta stop talking about the potty here. People might get the wrong idea. Just kidding.
免許
Okay. Alright.
新しい。新しい。
Atarashi. Did they go with no?
新しい。
Atarashi.
彼女。
彼女は no.
は。
彼女
運転。
運転ができます。Oh,
は。
just kidding. I forgot the wa again. 新しい彼女は運転ができます。 Oh no, tanoshikatta. What is this? Arigato. Arigato gozaimasu. Why is that there? Okay.
ダニエル
Danieru-san.
さん
Does he? Okay, done.
は
You know, this is kind of why I sort of like both Chinese and Japanese form of question asking. You don't really change the beginning. And you don't... Oh, no. But you do change a lot in Chinese. I kind of am a little bit taken by the Japanese way of asking questions. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just stays the same with an unknown mark. Like oftentimes it stays the same with an unknown mark. Like, the things happen at the end. The business is at the end, but it largely stays unchanged. As opposed to introducing, like, a new word or a new kind. I know I'm a little premature about this, but even in this circumstance, in the English, you would have to consider some things when it comes to, like, turning it into a question, right? In which manner the question. But when you're thinking about it in Japanese, it's like, well, you say the statement and you still continue to say the statement, only now you turn the tone of the statement around by almost a very Occam's razor approach, a very simplified approach, very efficient. In Chinese, you would have to understand where the interrogative word and how the phrasing implies a question or whatnot. And the English has telltale signs of how it has to be phrased to imply the question. But in Japanese, you know, not so much. You're off for today. Oh, okay. Fine. Good luck. Good luck. Take off. Danieru-san wa... Danieru-san... Wow. Oh. Oh, okay. Alright. So, バイクの
免許を持っています
No.
か
Yes. 持っていますか持っていますかダニエルさんはバイクの免許を持っていますか Okay. There's a lot of vocabulary.
マレーシアのスパイス。
Spice. Alright, well. Spice works.
スパイス
Spice. 一緒にご飯を作りました。Okay. 美味しいスパイスを使いました。Okay.
ご飯
Wow. What? Alright.
洗濯もできますよ
洗濯。洗濯もできますよ。洗濯もできましょう。It can do laundry. It can also do laundry. Wow. That seems like a very specific phrase. 洗濯もできましょう。Alright. Oh, she can do laundry. Whoops. Just kidding. I just read it, not it is. I was being really non-specific, but alright. That's fine. She can do laundry. Okay. Soji.
掃除
Soji mo dekimasu. Alright. He can also clean, sure.
山口さんはいいパートナーですね。
I guess Soji standing. Oh, no. Those are old vocabulary words. So it's still dekiru. Still using dekiru. Oh, Yamaguchi-san. Oh, we're throwing back some OG now. Yamaguchi-san wa ii partner desu ne. Where are we going with this? Oh, because they can clean and do laundry or something? Hai, ii partner desho. Sentaku mo dekimasu. We saw that coming. Like, of course you have a nice partner. They can also do laundry. What? Yeah.
カイさんは料理ができます。
Kai-san wa ryori ga dekimasu. Fair enough. Can cook? Very appropriate. Oh, that's Kai-san. Nah. 料理ができます。昨日魚とwhat? 野菜を焼きました。Okay.
野菜
Sure.
エリカさんは料理ができます。
エリカさんは料理ができます。エリカ。Okay. I'll take these. Just simple.
彼氏のラザニアが大好きです。
彼氏の Oh, what is it? Like lasagna. Lasagna. Oh my gosh, lasagna. No, that's yeah, lasagna. Oh, hey, that actually works out pretty well. Lasagna. 大好きです。彼氏のラザニア。Wait,
彼氏のラザニアが大好きです。
lasagna. That works out pretty well. 彼氏のラザニアが大好きです。Okay. Ooh. That could be misinterpreted, like if you're reading it from left to right, like old like translational trap.
ラザニア。
とて
Lasagna.
も美味しいのでエリカさんのラザニアが好きです。とても美味しいのでエリカさんのラザニアが好きです。ので
とても美味しいので I like it. Erika, where is Erika?
エリカさんの
ラザニアが好きです。
が好きです。とても美味しいのでエリカさんのラザニアが好きです。
とても美味しいのでエリカさんのラザニアが好きです。You know what's interesting about this? Node sounds really, really awkward. Like the phrasing in English, like translation in English, but I don't think it sounds that awkward in Japanese. とても美味しいのでエリカさんのラザニアが好きです。Like I actually like saying it that way. And then adding node as opposed to trying to think of what it says in English. Like it's very tasty. So I like Erika's lasagna. Like that sounds weird in English, but I feel like it's fairly reasonable. Saying it in Japanese, I kind of like it. とても美味しいのでエリカさんのラザニアが好きです。I don't know. Maybe it's unnatural. I don't know. No idea. But hey.
とても美味しいのでエリカさんのラザニアが好きです。
彼女のプリンは最高です。
Pudding? Okay. 彼女のプリンは最高です。Okay, sure. My girlfriend's pudding, okay, is awesome. Fair enough. Pudding.
プリン
Pudding. Okay.
生物学、
生物学。
ラザニア、
ラザニア。
趣味プリン
スパイス。
花さんのチョコレートプリンは美味しいです。花
さんのチョコレートプリンは
美味しいです。花さんのチョコレートプリンは美味しいです。
I got a lot of katakana. Okay. You know, this is talking about a date, but I don't know. I don't know how you feel. It's more like more than a date.
教科書、スパイス、プリン、
生物学
Just biology stuck in the middle of all these. It's from the specific unit, the class and university unit. The last one.
ラザニア
ラザニア。
洗濯もできますよ。
洗濯もできますよ。
Get more with Super Duolingo.
We have enough breaks. Okay. Table tennis. Oh, hey. 卓球。
卓球、
Way to join the Q club. 卓球。好きなスポーツは卓球です。
スポーツ用品
Equipment?
スポーツ用品
Interesting. スポーツ用品 That's new. Even though that's not marked new. 用品
花さんはいいスポーツ用品を使います。
Okay. Where's Hana?
花さんは
スポーツ用品を買います。使います。
スポーツ
スポーツ用品
を使います。
Wait, いい
花さんはいいスポーツ用品を使います。
花さんはいいスポーツ用品を使います。
サッカーができます。
サッカーができます。バスケットボールができます。
バスケットボール、
花さんは卓球ができます。
花さんは卓球ができます。卓球ができます。Oh, interesting. There's an implied play there.
ケンさんはスポーツ用品をたくさん持っています。ケンさん
は
たくさんスポーツケンさんはスポーツ用品をたくさん持っています。
スポーツ用品
教室用品を持っていです。ケンさんはスポーツ用品をたくさん持っています。です。
Just kidding.
たくさん。ケンさんはスポーツ用品をたくさん持っています。
Oops. Right.
ケンさんはスポーツ用品をたくさん持っています。
Okay. 用品。用品持っています。
ケンさんはスポーツ用品をたくさん持っています。
用品持っています。
彼氏はゴルフもしますか？
Okay. ゴルフ。Right, we had ミニゴルフ before already. 彼氏はゴルフもしますか？彼氏。ゴルフも。ゴルフ
ケンさんはゴルフもします。
ケンさんはゴルフもします。It's less about a date, but more about the person, but I guess you can infer that they went on a date to do those things. Oh, maybe they're talking about their date itself, like date as in the person, the date. The person they dated, about the person they dated. It's not really talking about doing the things during a date. It's more talking about the date, the person themselves. Their date. Because Ken-san wa gorufu mo shimasu. That's just saying something about your date.
Naomi さんはサッカーが得意です。
Oh, right. Tokui. Oh no, maybe not. No. Tokui. No. I was wrong. It's not E. Tokui is in contrast to E. I thought it was Yoku. No, it's Toku. Tokui. I misspoke during the guidebook thing. Tokui.
が得意です。
が得意です。Interesting. So,
が得意です。
The tokui to be good at something. That type of good. Alright. So we gotta keep in mind E and E in this case. Association with E. Naomi-san wa soccer ga tokui desu. Alright. Sounds good. Okay. Tokui desu. Okay.
教科書。
免許。
免許。License is kind of tough. 免許。
生物学。
生物学。
ゴルフ。
屋上。
What the heck? Alright. Ken-san no inu. Inu wa surfing. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Yeah? Surfing. Ga tokui desu. Alright. I mean, it's weird. But you could replace no anything, right? But alright, a dog, that's fine. Ken-san no inu wa surfing ga tokui desu. Would you say that sometime in the future? I don't know. Who knows? There's probably something viral about a dog surfing. Who knows? You know? I mean, Ken could be surfing with their dog. I don't know. That's kind of a funny thing that you probably wouldn't find yourself saying.
Naomi
But you can replace Inu.
さん
Naomi-san wa Naomi-san wa soccer
サッカ
が得意です。
ーが得意です。
エリカ
Erika-san they're going with ski, just ski. Oh, skato. I mean, skato.
スケート
Yeah, for ice skating. I still don't know about that. Skato
が得意です。
得意です. Skato. I mean, I feel like there are more than one skato, but I guess defaulting to ice skating is fine.
来週の水曜日
Naishu no suyobi. Oh, next Wednesday. Okay, so this is it's kind of like konshu no with the date. So Naishu no suyobi. Fair enough.
来週の火曜日のデートが楽しみです。来週
Now we're talking about dates.
火曜日
Date. What?
来週の火曜日のデートが楽しみです。の
Wait, Tano? Oh,
が楽しみです。
wait.
の来週の火曜日のデートが楽しみです。
I forgot all my particles. 来週の火曜日のデートが楽しみだ. Looking forward to it, yeah, okay.
来週の日曜日にまたケンさんに会います。
来週の日曜日にまたケンさんに会います。日曜日。また again.
辛いスペイン料理
辛いスペイン料理。I mean, that's technically not new. Fine.
スペイン料理
Spain Yori. I mean, that's technically new. But then again, the parts aren't new. Spain, they just put Spain flags on top of the same thing. They might have changed the awning color as well. Spain Yori. And it kind of reminds me of more of a Tex-Mex place as the base model than... Hey, Spain, I don't actually know what... Maybe it's a cafe? You know? Spain? Maybe their cafes may look like that. Spain, Spain yori ga tabetai desu. Samsan... Wait. Samsan to... Ishoni. Oh, wow, that's a big cut right there. Ishoni. You know what? I'm kind of curious. Like how Japanese gets page breaks, like line breaks. How do they do line breaks? Because I feel like in there's one thing, you know, in English, the word itself do not get cut in half. Or you can technically cut the word in half and put a hyphen there, but the general practice is to keep the word together. So in this case, it's interesting to think. I gotta look if they decide to cut, because it's kind of disruptive. So like you have Spain, right? Spain ryori ga tabemashita. That's fine. Then you have samsan to, and then ishoni. But E is cut off by the line break. So it's kind of really abrupt. Ishoni ni atarashi restaurant ni ikimashita. No, ikitai desu. It's just sort of Spain go ryori.
レストラン
次のデートは20日です。
Hatsuka desu. Oh no, we just randomly jumped to 20th? Really? We got 1 through 8, 10, and now we're at day 20. Wow. We graduated. Where has the time gone? Hatsuka? Is that what you just said?
20日
Hatsuka? Dang. That's different. Hatsuka. Oh! Wait. Oh. That kind of lines up with 20th birthday. Hatsuka. Okay. Okay. 次のデートは20日です。Okay. 20日。
5月20日にまた彼氏に会います。
What?
5月20日にまた彼氏に会います。
また彼氏
5月20日にまた彼氏に会います。
に会います。
20日。
Oh no! They still have the problem. Only it's further down the line. They still have the problem.
20日。
They fixed the Tsuitachi, but they didn't fix further down the line.
20日。
Oh no.
5月20日にまた彼氏に会います。
Okay,
5
5
月。
5月20日に20日に彼氏
また
彼氏に会います。
5月20日にまた彼氏に会います。
Oh no. Oh no.
7月20日にデートに行きます。
7月20日にデートに行きます。7月20日。
渋谷に昼ご飯を食べに行きます。
渋谷に昼ご飯を食べに、OK、食べに行きます。OK。渋谷に昼ご飯を食べに行きます。Okay, I see you. I see you.ご飯。今週末レストランに何を食べに行きましょう。パスタ。Okay.
パスタ
I like how they recolored the awning to have the 3 black colors. I forgot. I didn't notice that the first time around. Or the first couple times around.
20日に花さんとデートに行きます。
20日に花さんとデートに行きます。I'm going on a date with the Hana. Okay. 20日。
次のデートはいつですか？
次のデートはいつですか？日曜日に池袋にピザを食べに行きます。Okay, fair enough. What's that one? ハンバーガーとピザは無料でした。Oh, I know where that is coming from. That's coming from the cruise. Or, no, not even the cruise unit. Hamburger to pizza. No, it's definitely coming from the cruise one, I think.
池袋に美味しいケーキを食べに行きます。
池袋に美味しいケーキを食べに行きます。行きます。池袋にたまにケーキを美味しいケーキを
浅草に花火を見に行きます。
母さんは花火を見に行きます。花火。Okay. Don't have the kanji for 花火。浅草に見に花火をOh, hey, speaking of 水族館水族館 Honestly, that's a pretty fun date thing. 水族館来月 sea fishes, okay. 来月水族館に魚を見に行きます。Right? Yes. 浅草に花見を見に行きます。
浅草に
花火を見に行きます。Okay. Practicing some things. No past tense though. No past tense adjectives. It would be nice to have some past tense adjectives thrown in.
洗濯もできますよ。
洗濯もできますよ。
来週動物園に象を見に行きます。
動物園。来週動物園にwhat is UNT? Let's see if UNT shows up. Or 映画館。来週動物園に象 really 象を見に行きます。Okay. 動物園に見に象来週wait 来週I'm like wait 来週の日曜日のOK 好きなスポーツは卓球です。
来月水族館に魚を見に行きます。
来月水族館に魚を見に行きます。OK 行きます。水族館見に魚を 来月。釣りが大好きです。Whoa, what happened? What happened to the 大好き？釣りが大好きです。よく写真、よく出身、よく、新鮮。saying soup。よく新鮮な魚を食べます。Alright.
魚？
浅草に花火を見に行きます。
浅草の花火を見に行きます。Okay. We're starting to see lots of new vocabulary, but less and less variety of old vocabulary. Not quite the expectation. 浅草見に花火を throw in famous 有名な花火を見に行きます。
7月20日にデートに行きます。7月20日。
20日20日に7月20日にデート
に行きます。7月20日にデートに行きます。
Okay.
次のデートはいつですか？
次のデートはいつですか？土曜日に横浜。土曜日に横浜に昼ご飯を食べに行きます。横浜の20日は全然寒くないです。Oh, okay.
花さんは卓球ができます。花さんは卓球ができます。
アンドリューさんは釣りが大好きです。
アンドリューさんは釣りが大好きです。大学の近くのバーが大好きでした。OK。本当ですか？素敵な趣味ですね。
ケンさんはよく釣りをします。ケンさんはよく釣りします。ケンさんはよく釣りをします。
Short。
カイさんの趣味は卓球です。
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 Alright. 15 minutes for some kanji. And then we switch gears. We got right. Namae and Tanoshi. Oh, and Hatsuka.
Tanoshi.
Starting in the middle. Interesting.
楽しい。
Okay. Okay, those strokes are
楽し
expected.
い
Sure.
楽しい楽しい
楽しい
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 楽しい楽しい楽しい
楽しい
No, she is really busy. 名前
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 No surprises here.
名前名前
名前
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 I think this might be the first time where...
名前
Oh, no, it's not the first time.
名前
One of the few times
名前
where we have two kanji. No, it happens quite often with counters. Oh, she.
楽
Just kidding. I take it back. It happens very often with
楽しい
counters.
楽しい
But vocabulary words
楽しい
outside of counters. Very less common. Usually it's some
楽しい
standalone kanji.
楽しい
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 Okay, go. Interesting. Namae
名前
and go.
語り
Oh yeah, katari. Oh, there it is. Katari. Yeah. Katari. It was katari. But... Wait. No, I don't think that's right. Yeah, it's not. I don't think so. Irregular kurigana usage. Oh, it's an irregular. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't. We're gonna take that with a grain of salt right there.
語り
I don't know about that.
語り
We'll remember it, I suppose. Katari.
名前
Namae.
中
Naka.
日本 4
Yon.
語り
Namae.
名前
語りか
Maybe I'll look it up. They like do a more in-depth thing.
6回
Yokai. Oh, that's not changed yet.
花
Not.
中名前
Namae.
語
名前前
海
Umi.
7 6回
Yokai.
語り名前
Actually, let's find out what happens if I type in language. Okay. Kotoba. Genko. Genko, yeah. Yep. And it's just goal. Yeah. You just go with goal. Oh, but that's... Yeah. It used as a suffix. Okay. Oh, they're both used as a suffix. A noun for speech. Interesting. Yeah, no. Not sure about using katari here. Not sure about that. You know, for half an hour, you're still so tired. Did so much Japanese say? Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. Yeah, I don't know about katari here.
語り
Katari, but
花
it's fine. Na,
外
soto,
6回
6回、
名前
namae,
語り
namae. Yeah. Off we go.
名
Namae,
前
namae.
名前
Oh my gosh, dude. My pen like triple tapped
Namae.
on the same spot, even though I was trying to like get my
名前
pen
名
hand
前
off to my keyboard. I hate when that happens.
名前
Actually, I really
Namae.
dislike when that happens.
名前
Because there's no buffer in when there's rapid
Namae.
tap. Yeah,
名前
that's actually kind of annoying. Alright. We're at the end of our lesson for Japanese.
楽しい
And then our Chinese is review. Yeah, I think there needs to be a buffer in design. A tapping buffer designed for strokes. Especially when you're writing. People tend to, there might be like micro movements where you do a multi-tap. So quality of life change would be to add a tapping buffer.
楽しい
Yeah, like I just lifted my pen and I was trying to get my pen into my hand again, and then it already registered a stroke.
楽しい
Although the direction like
楽しい
is fairly lenient when it comes to the lines itself.
楽しい
I think the rapid tapping requires a quality of life buffer. Like a block, actually. A block from
楽しい
multi-tapping.
楽しい楽しい
It wouldn't happen as often on a mouse, though. If people are using a mouse, then that wouldn't happen too often. I'm not sure about tapping on a phone.
楽しい
If people's hands shake that much. I don't actually know how this section is done on a phone. I guess you just swipe. Oh, she. Namae.
名前
Eh. Gee.
楽しい
My.
安い
Yasui.
学校古い名前楽しい
楽しい楽しい
名前
名前
楽しい
名前お楽しい
楽し楽しい小さい10
10
回
回 That's still not corrected yet?
名前安い
名前
前
な前
古い
い
6回名前楽しい安い
安い
他のしい
名前
名前
楽しい新しい10回
10
小さい
回Alright. 名前
名前
Okay.
名前
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 名前名前
front. My. Okay. Namae.
Na-
Fair enough.
前、
My.
午後、
Gogo.
名前、
Namae.
半、
Han.
口、
Chi. I was gonna say call. Oh.
Na- mae.
Namae.
前。
名前
A lot sharper now.
前、
My.
車、名前、今夜、
Konya.
半、
Han. Okay. Anoshi.
楽しい。
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 楽しい
楽しい。
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 Vigilance. Vigilance.
な
Namae.
名前。
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 名前
名前。
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 Get more
Okay.
楽しい
楽しい。
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 楽しい
Okay. The timer's up, but let's complete the right.
名前。
Namae. Namae.
名前
Okay. Namae.
名前。
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 名前
Okay. Oh, that's a Rapperino. Rapperino for our Japanese session today, right? Nothing much to say other than, I guess we talked a little bit about that story from yesterday about how someone encountered the meeting of cultures on a plane. Now I kind of want to do some plane traveling just to see the different people you might be able to meet, right? It's been a while. Traveling is interesting that way, right? All right, folks. Always, what is a nice little sentiment? Speaking and sounding natural is a very admirable thing to keep in mind, right? When it comes to language, I'm not so much prioritize that. In my opinion, I kind of like the idea of, yeah, it'll happen when it happens. But you know what? Cultural awareness is something else. I feel like there is definitely a lot of things you can kind of pick up, notice if you're very observant about learning a language, but at the same time, it certainly enriches the process when one spends maybe some of their time also reaching out to the cultural understanding of language. It's certainly, learning a language encourages people to explore that. At the same time, perspective is gathered when a deeper understanding sometimes come from some focus or some effort placed towards it, right? I thought my discussion or my thoughts regarding when Lotus encountered the Japanese people on the plane was incredibly interesting, largely because my life tends to involve the coming of East and West meeting all the time. So what can I say? Learning language is great, but it is certainly even more rich and interesting when one is also interested in the culture and origins of that language, right? That little duality where language learning might not necessarily be might make someone become less and less unusually disconnected from a culture, like small talk. You know, our discussion about small talk, how frequent, where the appropriateness of small talk may contrast with the practice and act and pragmatism of language learning. I think in this case it's very interesting when you can consider that there's often a lack of small talk in your target language culture, right? And that oftentimes I see that far more humorously, like endearingly. You have someone who's very enthusiastic about language learning. At the same time, the culture of their target language often does not engage in small talk, where that opportunity would present itself to use that language. So yeah, can say that having friends in different cultures certainly enables and provides a great opportunity to practice a target language in the long run, right? It's not unique to Japanese. When you have friends, especially ones that are cross-cultural, it leads to a lot of miscommunication, of course. It leads to a lot of misunderstanding. At the same time, isn't that the most memorable things about friendships are? When you compromise, understand how to bridge cultures, that is wonderful. Of course, with that said, it's within your comfort zone. Many, in my opinion, around me are more used to the monocultural lifestyle, of which I can empathize partially. That's yes. If you're one that is skirting between cultures, not saying it in a bad way, but you wear different masks. There's code switching, but when you become really practiced in it, sometimes you don't notice it. And other people tell you that they notice, right? I can't tell you how many times I get it often when I'm around people where my code switching happens in front of them, right? My behavior, my appropriateness is a part of me, but I certainly am selective in the way I behave in different cultural settings. Which I don't know if that feels normal or pretentious to other people when they live a life of monocultural normalization. So like, is it me pretending to be like Western and then me pretending to be Eastern? No, not really. Like for me, you behave appropriately. So naturally, when you're learning a language, I often have this, yeah, sure, the mechanics of the language is very important and all, like the natural state and all that, like pitch accent and stuff. So, but I don't think that circumvents the need to be culturally sensitive. Right. Like, yeah, you want to, it's the funny thing, yeah, you want to practice Japanese. But going up to a 7-Eleven in the middle of the day, trying to practice your Japanese, it can be impeccable Japanese, but the mindset of that is not really the place to practice it, in my opinion. Or like if you were really interested in the appropriateness or the naturalness of language, I imagine then you want to also be natural in their culture, right? So it's a funny thing. I don't think there is bad or good things in it. I find it very endearing that there are two people trying to influence each other based on their social norms that they might not be conscious about, right? Small talk is very, in my opinion, is more towards the Western cultures than they are to the Eastern cultures. Yeah, it's to the point where when I was growing up, I didn't really understood what pleasantries are. I didn't understand the validity of small talk. It's not to say that there aren't any third generation or fourth generation Americans that would feel the same way. Generally speaking, though, I think there's likely a statistical majority as opposed to like, oh, you know, individual variation and whatnot. Because in a Western culture, like in the United States, there are individual variations for sure. However, I would say small talk is in the statistical majority, probably, in terms of culture. Engaging in small talk is a stranger to stranger normative behavior. However, being raised under a Chinese household, pleasantries are not a normative social behavior. And for better or for worse, it often can come off as seeming burdensome or a heightened insecurity. So it's to the point where when someone explains something very complicated and you don't know what's going on, you still nod and do not acknowledge or try to contribute to something you don't understand, right? It's even more so that as well. So when you're engaging a stranger, let's say a visitor to the United States, and they're not comfortable in speaking English, they know not to speak. They tend to do what they can, so smile, nod, and stuff. And when a stranger in another country tries to speak their language, they will still politely probably be very harsh and precise. So you still won't have an opportunity to engage in small talk. That's such a funny situation, especially from the perspective of now a language learner. I don't think these things were apparent to me until I started learning another language, because you start hyper focusing on all the opportunities you can speak to a native speaker, right? Like, for example, oh yeah, you know Chinese, like let's speak together. It's like, well, that doesn't happen. You have to be close friends. Like, speak in the way that a language learner might think is productive. So then you always have that encounter of the mechanics, like, oh yeah, but where do you find someone? Well, you could pay someone like a teacher, and that can be help, or find ways to make friends that would also involve moving or vacationing or temporarily trying up. So that stuff comes up a lot, I feel, and it became a gold standard largely because I don't think it's necessarily the same standard for everything. I think it's sufficient for everything. So it's kind of ideal to have friends in your target language because that kind of is sufficient for everything. However, I think if you're learning English, you can most definitely approach strangers and engage in small talk. Like, a lot of times. Especially coming from this perspective, coming from here. Like, if someone visits the United States and they're individualistically not from a country that forces a lack of small talk or like normalizes a lack of small talk, coming to the United States and then just striking up conversations like at a cafe, like potentially anywhere, a lot of times you'll probably get an opportunity to engage in small talk. However, if you're coming from like East meets West kind of situation, yeah, it's so fun to think about. Like, my first thought is if I go to Japan, I probably won't even be motivated, nor would I even expect myself to engage in any form of utilizing my Japanese language in a public space, especially during a business transaction. So if I go to like a convenience store and stuff, I actually would end up speaking English. either English or all the like the your standard, gaijin, gaikujin kind of gaijin kind of thing, right? Where like thank you and please, right? Hello, and that's about it. And then find the appropriate time, which I mentioned, like the nightlife. Find an appropriate time in which small talk would be engaged. So that's kind of my take on it. Or make a friend. I don't know how you go about doing that. I'm not gonna, and I already made a comment about that too. Making friends for the sole purpose of language learning is doing the same as, in my opinion, personally, making friends for the sole purpose of target language training instead of becoming friends first. That's a different story. And it feels like it's a hyper focus on an interest. Like when going to Japan, specifically to use Japanese whenever you can. Like someone who goes to Japan and said, oh yeah, when I went to Japan, I only output Japanese. Like, yeah, that's going to Japan to experience Japan for the sake of patting yourself on the back for using your target language. At least in my opinion. Like if you go to tell someone, what did you do in Japan? And the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, oh, I only spoke in Japanese. That's why I went to Japan. It's like, well, what about the culture? What about the people? Did you even go to places where you were uncomfortable and you had to speak English or speak in your common language? Because that happens too. Japanese people isn't, it's not a country filled with people who are ignorant to your common language most of the time, right? So I personally am biased, but first I think of how to establish friendships and decorum before putting my interest first. So sometimes I can feel my inner conflict when I see people go to a convenience store and start speaking Japanese, and then the Japanese clerk panics and say, oh, you speak English, and they panic, and then there's this misunderstanding, and then you have on the one side like, oh, that's kind of rude to assume that a foreigner can't speak Japanese, and or like the whole stereotype, like on both sides of the thing. But in the end, cultural sensitivity is both ways, right? Cultural sensitivity goes both ways. So I go to a country because I know the social norms, in my opinion. I don't want to pretend like I'm Japanese and I know how to native speak, like I'm entitled. Oh, I worked really hard to learn Japanese. I'm entitled to be treated differently. Like, well, I'm a foreigner. So sometimes I can empathize with the store clerk. It's a business hour. They have a job and they are trained with social norms. So oftentimes there's this like duality between East meets West kind of mentality. And being a product of East meets West, it's kind of difficult not to feel ambivalent, like a mixed bag. If I'm gonna go somewhere, I'd rather go for the culture despite the language. Yeah, the language is cool, but it's so much more than that. Yeah, I get like mixed feelings. Like I understand the passion that the other people want to show. It's like, oh, I really want to get to use my language. Like, let's go. And then at the same time, it's like, whoa, breathe. Remember, when you're going there, I think 50 to 60% of your day will not be presented with an opportunity to use your language. You can do that and then get the response like, oh, you're a gaijin, you're a foreigner, right? Like, because you act like a foreigner. And so your language could be really, really great. Like you could sound native, but I think in the end of the day, like if you go to my parents, for example, they're not Japanese. If you go to my parents and you spoke the perfect Mandarin or Fujonese, right? You speak perfect Fujonese and Mandarin, but you spoke to them on the streets where they don't expect to be spoken to. And then they get shocked and say, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting you. And then you get offended right? That happens in social media a lot of times. Like, well, yeah, of course I know Japanese. Like, why are you stereotyping me as a foreigner because what I can't learn Mandarin? That kind of like entitlement and like thing, I get it. You worked really hard. At the same time, like learning the language is great. And I hope that when people learn language, they are also learning cultural norms. Because yes, it is culturally normative for other like Chinese people at least, to not expect a certain appearance or a certain way of suddenly having perfect Mandarin. And at the same time, they're not like offended as well. It's not normal, and that's great. That's the beauty of the stuff. So not some people do celebrate the shock factor, but maybe a little bit more exploitative. So there's an extreme case for most things online, but I personally prefer that, where two people are shocking each other based on expectations, but at the same time they're mutually respectful. So when I go, I think my behavior will be more reflexive of the culture I'm going into versus my self-interest in executing my own interest. I think part of being natural in language use is also being a natural in understanding the time and place, or it's part of the learning, right? And I know cultural understanding to language learners might not be the same thing. To me, learning a language is also being culturally invested, right? So yeah, my Japanese might take a back seat, like the literal speaking of Japanese might take a back seat because I'm so much more interested in the culture and the people. Yeah, if I go to a 7-Eleven, I kind of expect the 7-Eleven clerk to know English, because they probably encounter a lot of foreigners nowadays, especially if I'm in Tokyo, right? If I'm in a touristy spot, I would have to take the gamble. I'm more likely to speak Japanese or attempt to speak Japanese in a less metropolitan place, and I'll try my best in places that you may not necessarily expect people to be like. So you're taking a gamble. You're learning Japanese, you learn Japanese or English because of the social norms of the places you're visiting, right? So I may attempt to speak Japanese in per se a countryside or like somewhere less touristy at this, and then in like really high foot traffic Tokyo or Shibuya place that tons of foreigners visit day in and day out, there's a chance speaking English is far more resonating than trying to speak Japanese, right? So there's these things to take into account. Saying that you assume certain things because it coincides with interests, that might be a leap. It kind of leads to those funny, it still leads to funny and endearing situations when both parties come out of it understanding a little bit more, right? Like that irony when you think that, oh yeah, if you speak really great Japanese people will more likely engage in small talk, right? And my thought is, Japanese people don't engage in small talk with people, with other Japanese people. The chances of a face culture to interact with a stranger who speaks fantastic Japanese is probably still unlikely. Yeah. So you get to make a friend, right? You start with a ritual. Say hello. Maybe if you stay around long enough to be friends with them, you slowly do your natural ritualistic thing. Do a gesture. Have common, like maybe you work with them or they're your new coworkers. You start exchanging smaller smaller gestures of productivity, and then you form a relation. That's kind of, at least I'm kind of extrapolating. I'm projecting how quote unquote Asian face culture get through the stages of becoming friends, because I want to emphasize that it's still true online, right? It's still true online. So the chances, like if you take 10 even second gens or maybe native, when you approach making friends with Japanese people, like even online, or maybe like Chinese people, I'm like trying not to say it's always the case, but the ritual in approaching someone and making friends with them would definitely increase when you're not hyper focused on the task at hand, like, oh yeah, I need a language partner, I think you're more likely, in my opinion, to focus on making friends first, like the act of culturally making friends across a culture, than speaking impeccable language. It is nice to have the language and vehicle. Online, I feel tons of people, and it doesn't have to be language learning. I think nowadays, young, passionate, impressionable people who like to get things done have ignored, to some extent, maybe not prioritized, the focus that when you need something, when you need to buy something, when you need to interact with something, right? It involves someone else. Like language learning, the weird thing is, oh yeah, I've done language learning, I've learned this language, I know how it works, and suddenly when that person goes and interact with another person, they treat them like not another human who can think, right? Think, learn, and have a different background. Like all these things kind of go by the wayside. So that's kind of what I mean by what are you learning a language for? If you're learning it to prop your own ego and make yourself feel good, that's perfectly fine. It makes you happy. The moment you go and to use that language or use your skills for something that involves another human being, I think ultimately your success would probably begin first by how to apply and frame that you're interacting with another human being. Because I think a lot of that is going on the internet, where advice, who's right, who's wrong, what are the facts, have diminished the idea that you have dehumanized your interaction with another person, right? Oh, this is what I've been told people should behave like, and therefore you stop paying attention to the person and you make presumptions about the person, right? That's kind of how stereotypes are done or happen, but in a negative, like in a stigma way, as opposed to a proactive way. Like, I have my stereotypes, I have my generalizations. However, I don't treat the other person as though they're not human. So instead, I'm like, you know, I'll find the most appropriate to the best of my knowledge. Then I will meet the challenge at hand, right? I have to remember that there's individual variation. These are human beings, and they probably encounter these insecurities. So let's try to be a little bit more empathetic, right? Oh, hey, here's a language learner. Clearly, I know the right answer. So let me just project all my advice onto this person, as opposed to not even asking what that person is doing. But, you know, for learning. And that is the same situation, in my opinion, or a very similar situation when you go up to a person and say, I'm learning Japanese. Be grateful. Right? At least that's how low key my parents sometimes feel, or like I feel when someone comes up and say like, oh, look at me, I learned a lot about your language. And I'm like, that's great, awesome. And in a face culture, it'd be like, I'm so happy for you, it's very good. And then that's it. The transaction ends because you stop prioritizing trying to make friends with that person or being friendly with that person. You were demonstrating and serving your own purpose. So that's mutually understandable. It doesn't deepen the relationship since there's nothing added, right? It's kind of like coming up to a streamer and say, I'm really good at this game. I spent 350 hours on this game. I also cleared, or like, you come up to a language learner and say, I've learned 1,000 kanji in like 3 months. This is the strategy I use. I highly recommend this because this worked for me. And also, I passed JLPT N1 in like 1 year. It's almost like the person is talking at the person and not with the person. So you get that idea, you get that feeling like, so where am I in this equation, right? Like, did you just wanted to tell me what you did because you forgot that you're talking to another person? You're talking at the person, not with them, right? That's kind of the idea. And I feel like sometimes language learning also puts one in that trap. Not that it's like out of poor intent. It's usually not out of poor intent. Part of me is just at Shibuya because it's so touristy and it's glamorized ground level. But just go up to the actual stores and you can get better cultural experience and same tourist vibe. Yeah. Like, I almost feel like it's been stigmatized quite a bit. Like, being a tourist is accurate. Being a foreigner is accurate. You can definitely bridge and whatnot and all that, but don't forget, right? Like, it's not a bad thing. I sometimes people would say things like, oh yeah, but I'm afraid to be identified as a language learner because I've already mastered Japanese. Like, well, I mean you did learn language, right? So there's some reality to it. Like, there are pros and cons of being that. Like, if I walk into 7-Eleven and someone thought me like, oh yeah, let's get my English ready, right? That's cool. It's culturally normal. Glad they are still behaving culturally normal. This is a normal interaction between a foreigner and a native. The last thing I want to do is, in my opinion, humbly, like, it was a video that triggered all this talk from yesterday. You can strive your best to do your best of certain things. It doesn't change reality because of belief, in my opinion. Right? Personally, in my opinion. So what I mean is, if someone sees me as a foreigner, that's because I am. Now, you can do a lot and strive a lot and be proud of all the things you want to do to be a native, like be native-like. I don't think it's a stigma to say, I think it's almost impressive when you can achieve native-like things and you're still a foreigner, right? Because that's the idea. Like, you can spiritually consider yourself as not a foreigner because you are so close to a native person or something. You can strive to be that. If you're speaking to me, I'm more of the idea that I'm proud that there are other people who invest their most time to be Japanese. They're not Japanese. That's how you acclimate to the Japanese culture. That's how you acclimate to Chinese culture. I don't go around like telling my parents that I'm Chinese. I go around and telling my parents know that I'm respectful enough to say I'm American, but I'm also the proud son of Chinese parents, right? And I thank my parents for that, right? You have to understand the cultural sensitivity. My parents sees American. They don't see a Chinese person. It's not a bad or a good thing. It's one of those things. You know what the reality is. Doesn't mean I can't behave like a Chinese person. There's a difference between that. What I am and what I'm doing two different things, right? And some people might honestly kind of forget that sometimes in their passion. And that's probably the take-home message here. I made it sound really fun. I think it's beautiful when you're like out of your element, the discomfort. I think there's something very genuine about it. It might be my American side speaking, but when two people awkwardly try to navigate each other, it's like kind of watching an anime or like a sitcom in the English, where you see these two people who they're really nice people to each other, but they're like being awkward around each other because they're trying their best to navigate this complicated situation. And I think that's wonderful. It's kind of derpy. I have a soft spot for like genuine human vulnerability. Is that a way to speak it? Yeah, vulnerability. There's something so endearing about strangers and even loved ones, but man, two groups of strangers, and their like willingness to engage in something that makes them vulnerable. It might be because the face culture is very, very tough. Like I can't even imagine being, I don't know which one's more aggressive, Chinese culture or Japanese culture, like relatively speaking, but being in public is like this undeniable pressure to not be out of your element. So you're constantly pressured to be in your element. And I kind of think it rubs off on people who are learning Japanese. It's constantly like, yeah, you do feel that. You have to constantly be in your element. It's kind of a funny, humorous thing that passionate Japanese learners end up acquiring that mirrors what it's like in a face culture. Like here in the United States, I always like the idea where like, oh, that's okay, you're expressing yourself, right? Like sometimes that's great. Oh yeah, this guy's being straight up, like genuine and straight up, like they're doing their thing, right? Unapologetically, but know when they're being offensive, they apologize. And that's in Chinese culture, at least in my opinion, don't do it. You just cannot ever do anything wrong. And that's what makes Asians, I guess, like Chinese and Japanese people, so consistent, because every day when they go out, their cultures normalize, don't ever do anything wrong. The tolerance for doing things wrong is paramount to shaming one's own face. I talked about this a little bit way back, where the greatest thing, the asset that makes Asian cultures incredibly aggressively compliant is the ever fear of bringing shame on your public credibility. Like you walk around knowing that you got to do everything as consistent as possible so that you do not draw attention to yourself, nor do you effectively create wrong and awkward situations upon yourself. You create discomfort and burden to the people around you, even to the point where you might not even ask questions or ask for help. When you do need help or ask questions, it's filtered down to me before. However, growing up in the United States, I've learned that in the United States, at least in a westernized culture, you can ask for help. You can say, please help me here, to a stranger. And sometimes it does work. Not all the time, but it works more often. And you're not burdening some people. Like some people are legitimately more than happy to interfere and go up. And that's kind of the cultural clash, right? Unsolicited advice is a lot more socially normative in a Western culture. Solicited advice is predominant in a face culture. If the person didn't ask for help, it is rude or almost disrespectful to assume they need help. And the double edge is that they often don't ask for help. if they think they don't need help. So this happens a lot when I'm streaming because I have back and forth. Sometimes I'm like, no, I'm not okay with unsolicited advice, and then sometimes I'm like okay with solicited advice. So it's kind of one of those things that come at me all the time because I'm juggling these things. Where like on the one hand, I kind of know about solicited, unsolicited, that kind of thing. Like you have to put on a face that you know what you're doing and you can't do anything wrong. Yeah, that in my opinion, at least in minimally by transition, it's the Chinese way, right? What comes out, like it's reflected in the image, in the country's image and the government, right? You cannot bring shame or like do not err in any way, regardless of what it is. You're trying to keep a public image. It's true for Koreans too. In fact, there might be an argument that Korean face culture is even stronger. Like their monocultural image is so strong that their xenophobia might actually be the strongest in Korea. So you gotta, the question is, do you want to play along when you're in their country? I usually am the person that I embrace my face culture, heritage, and when you're in Rome, you do as the Romans do. Ironically, I pick a cultural center point that isn't Western, but you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, right? Oh, that's a fun little exit story for today. That's what I talked to Lotus about quite a bit. Lotus bumped into some Japanese people on a plane, I think in Texas or something, somewhere in the United States. And I thought that was a perfect, it's almost picturesque what it's like to interact, having two different people from different cultures interact serendipitously in a place. And I think it's magical, especially when two people, both sides, are willing to go out of their comfort zone. In this case, I don't think so. I actually think Lotus went out of his comfort zone because it's natural for him being Americanized to go out of his comfort zone to initiate, and then I think the foreigners, the Japanese people, were acting very decorum respected. They were trying to keep their face, so they spoke however they be respectful as much as they can, and then politely use very short responses and precise responses in order to not engage particularly in small talk. Meanwhile, if it was from a different, more westernized culture, I could see myself like, I bumped into a bunch of strangers before when I was traveling, and I would have the conversation with them through the entire flight. You know, that just somehow, by the time the flight ends, we're practically best friends. So it is just a very different perspective. I think the odds of that happening, if it comes from a face culture, is unlikely to happen. You do not suddenly become friends all of a sudden through like chit chat and small talk serendipitously in a once like an hour in a meeting on a plane or something. That is a cultural difference. At least that's my personal anecdote. And I don't want to sound like everyone. Like, I'm not saying it's everyone. I'm saying it's more likely that is the case. Yeah, so go out there, take risk. Even if it is, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Embracing your inner Western culture has its endearments. I still enjoy people going to, provided it's a learning experience, right? No harm, no foul, that kind of thing. Lots of learning experience. I still enjoy people going to 7-Elevens and seeing them, how they navigate the 7-Eleven situation. It's often 7-Elevens, like convenience stores and whatnot. I've been in food service. It's been weird before. I've been asked, like literally yesterday, I've been asked, when someone asks me, like, why doesn't your parents teach you Chinese or something? Or why doesn't your parents? I'm like, that's kind of a weird question. I answer that to the best of my ability. Yeah, I literally, it's kind of interesting because I got asked it twice by two separate people, where they're like, why are you learning the language on your own? Why don't your parents teach you? It's like, that doesn't happen very often. If you knew the cultural settings, which I don't expect to, it's not a normal thing to happen. Especially in a Chinese family who did not grow up in China. It's very pragmatic. You learn the language of the people that's most useful. So I learned English. And my parents cannot teach me English. They didn't know English. Right? Okay. Thank you much. And all to the Japanese learners out there, continue to stay passionate, right? Find the appropriate time. Make a Japanese friend. I'm still working on that. But I still got people like Lotus. So I'm grateful for whatever I can get, right? That seems like an incredibly rude question, honestly. It is to some extent. However, I had the question so often that it's kind of like the 7-Eleven clerk. It can be seen as rude, but it's happened so often in my life that you come to expect it, right? And on the flip side, because I speak American English, actually, instead of even asking if I learn another language, someone assumes I only know English. I'm so curious, if I spoke British English, would they assume I only know one language? You see what I mean? Because it's you kind of know where that stereotype is coming from. You know, and I'm gonna tell you now, it is actually a thing. There is a predilection for people when they hear a British accent to think that the British person speaks more than one language than a person who has an American accent. Right? There's some deep cuts in there somewhere. So knowing all of this, I get less offended. It's hard to get offended when you have perspective on things. Whether they were trying to be rude or not, I think it's sometimes largely an innocent question. And the one that isn't ignorant, in my opinion, not for a bad or good thing, I think the one that has the information can be the one to not make it into something, right? Like, instead of being offended, perspective has this wonderful way of seizing the opportunity. It's like, well, let me explain why my parents didn't teach me Chinese. Chinese people are incredibly pragmatic. They moved to the United States to have a better life. And what is necessary for a better life is an execution of American English in the United States of America. So, naturally, like becoming really, really good at Japanese, I must become really, really good at English. That's how Chinese people handle things. You cannot make a fool of yourself in English if you're in a country of English speakers. So, learning Mandarin now is still optional because I know English. But I choose to do it because I'm an American. Ironically enough, the only reason I would say that I'm learning Mandarin and Japanese right now, ironically, is because I'm American. My parents would say, why are you wasting time learning Chinese and Japanese when you're not going to use it for your career in the United States? Do you plan on living in Japan or China? If you do, then I understand why you are learning those languages, right? But that's kind of the really funny little deep cuts of life. You got to take it from the perspective of what my parents think. My parents are Chinese people. They are incredibly pragmatic. Why are you learning a language in which the country you live in does not normally speak that language, like statistically, right? Why are you learning Japanese when 99.9% of native speakers are in Japan? My parents would probably ask, like, are you gonna move in? Are you gonna move to Japan with your sister? That's probably the first thought they would have by asking, like, because they're looking for a pragmatic reason why I would learn Japanese. And now I do have one because my sister lives in Japan for the time being. So I don't have to answer that question anymore. Okay. All right. That's enough story time. All right, guys. Keep on learning. Find your motivations, right? East meets West. It's so beautiful. Honestly, it's like oil and water, but it also is like salt and pepper at the same time. Like one that is not like the other, but sometimes you can make oil and water work, and you can make salt and pepper. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. Salt and pepper seems like they go together, but they're also very different. You know, right? You'd be surprised how many people just salt their foods and not pepper their food, and then vice versa. But it's kind of one of those things. It can go together. It seems weird, but there's a chance it can go together. I like to believe that I'm not beating myself up. A deep cut for another day. It is very common for diaspora of West and East culture where the second gen decides on picking West or East because their value systems collide a lot. Instead of navigating both at the same time, products of diaspora often decides predominantly to embrace one or the other because of these opposing forces. There are things you can't have both. You have to act in both situations. So lots of second gen either choose to be more westernized. In this case, we're talking about Americans. They might choose to be more American than they are. So that's kind of a whole different topic. All right. Mata ne. Mata shita. Ja ne. To all the Japanese people out there, or Japanese learners. If you're going to watch this later, arigatou gozaimasu. Right? I'm going to get up, stretch. We're going to switch gears to Chinese. I'll be right back. Thanks.